All right. Oh. All right, everybody. Hello, hello. We're going to start our Zoom recording too. And I'm going to get us going today because it's Father's Day, and I know you all probably have other things to do, and I'm grateful that you're here. And also because the Helping Parents Heal group is meeting next door, and I want to let any of you here go over there in an hour when we're done. So we're going to wrap up in an hour. Because some of you have children in spirit. And Helping Parents Heal is a network of angels. So on that note, today is our last day, our last Sunday talking about angels. But I just wanted to say thank you for all of your questions, for your emails, for your responses in class. Some of the questions I've been able to answer by email, and then others I haven't been able to because they're requiring longer discussions. But I wanted to ask you all two questions that have come up in conversations with some of you. And one is, are you comfortable or uncomfortable with the idea of a soul plan? Because that is a hard concept to take. Uncomfortable. How many people are uncomfortable? Okay. And how many people are just not sure? Okay, great. Well,
Believe in it, if you'll know what ours is.
very good. She said, and by the way, I have a microphone for any runners when we have questions. So she said that some of us believe in the soul plan, but we just don't know what ours is. And I guess the other question would be, then what does that have to do with the angels? So what I want to share is that coming to believe fully in the soul plan can be a lifelong process. It's not something I'm asking any of you to change your beliefs today and grasp this new idea, but it's like planting a little seed where you say, is it possible? And then you just sort of observe. And that's how scientists do their science. They ask a question and then they observe and study. And because grief has been my greatest teacher, and grief is many people's greatest teacher here, that grief is the thing that spurs most people, believe it or not, to believe in the soul's plan. And why is that, you might ask? Because when someone you love dies, especially a child crossing young before you, there are so many unanswered questions, and the old religion you may have grown up with no longer fits. In fact, I've had moms come to me and say, my child chose their exit, and so the Christian church that I went to told me that he had gone to hell. Are there any people on earth who would think that a loving God would send some troubled teenager to hell for any reason? No. And so we have to examine these beliefs that we're all handed in this culture. They're very different from beliefs in other parts of the world. And so think about it, if you'd grown up in Japan or Thailand or many other religion places, you would have believed in reincarnation without any question. You would have had completely different indoctrination, we could say, on what you should believe in. But as free will evolving souls, it is our job to study and learn and question, and to say what feels true in my heart, and especially to not let anyone or any dogma ever make you feel unworthy. The minute something begins to make you feel less than or unworthy, it is not telling you the God story, because God is, you, as we teach in unity, is a source of unconditional love that permeates this universe and runs through every single one of you. That's the only idea that you need to really consider. That little idea will spark so many great aha moments or good questions in you and your soul journey. And coming up with your answer that resonates with you will be the thing you'll be able to get behind and believe in. And, I also had the benefit of having departed loved ones just keep coming back and visiting me and telling me how it works in such a real way that I would have had to check into the mental institute except that I was happy and healthy and thriving. And oh, by the way, Paul visited me and told me that the soul never suffers, So I wasn't losing my mind. And many of you who've lost loved ones, especially children, Amber has often told the story that when Jagger crossed over, he was instantly flicking the lights in the house and doing all these dramatic signs. And she was at the turning point where she said, either I'm losing my mind, which is possible, or Jagger lives on and he's got something to say. That's the beautiful moment of saying, well, then I need to dip my toe in the water of spiritual study and figure out what resonates with me. And if your religion tells you that that's going to send you to hell, then you need to really consider how that, if a loving God would punish you because you're studying all the God religions. By the way, I have loved in my lifetime studying every religion, every path to God. I grew up Catholic. I studied Theosophy. I studied Native American religions. I studied Buddhism. I lived in a Hindu ashram. I'm a unity minister. It has been a journey of going, I need to understand how all of this works. Some of you may not have that same drive to understand it, but when you lose someone you love, that cracks the world open and makes you really need to have answers. And when Paul died, I was picking up the pieces and going, okay, well, that was hard, but I'm going to get on with my life. And my best girlfriend, Chrissy, came to visit me. We'd known each other since first grade. And I'm going to tell you her shared death message to me because I think it'll make sense to all of you. Chrissy and I, she was my first friend. She was my most loyal, amazing friend, brilliant, funny. She and I were the only girls in Mobile, Alabama in seventh grade who loved the Beatles. We always said, we're gonna get out of the South as soon as we're 17 and we're gonna go have a great life somewhere. And if we could make it to England, that'll be even better. And we dressed in our little 60s outfits, And Chrissy could make me laugh like nobody else. My problem with Chrissy was she made me laugh so hard that I would pee in my pants. And so she wanted me to take ballet class with her. And I said no, because I knew I was going to pee in my leotard. And she got hurt feelings and she was like, well, I want you to take this class with me. And I was so shy and, it was the 60s. You don't say things like that. And so the whole reason I didn't dance with Chrissy was because she made me laugh so hard I peed in my pants. But I'm just telling you that so you will pick up the unique vibration of Chrissy as I talk about her. Most brilliant, most funny, smartest girl in the school. And when we all applied for colleges, I wanted to be a writer and she could be anything. And she was one of the first girls in 1969 to get admitted to Georgetown University, which had never admitted women until 1969. They took like 20 girls from across the country. Chrissy in Mobile, Alabama was one of them. Chrissy, I feel you, baby. And she made me laugh, made me question everything, questioned my Catholic religion beliefs, questioned everything, and laughed all the time. Went off to Georgetown, she and I kept in touch always. She would come visit me in Colorado, always questioning my life choices, you know, she was that kind of friend. Like, are you really dating that loser, you know? And so then, when Paul died, very few people came to visit me because they didn't know what to do with me. Chrissy, of course, got on the plane and flew from California to be with me. She and I went skiing and we were laughing our butts off and she fell. And by the time we kind of got her down to go to the airport, there were bruises all over her body.
Oh.
And we were too dumb and young to know, and it was 1979 maybe or something. And they put her on the plane, and by the time she got off the plane, they rushed her to the ER and she was diagnosed with terrible kind of leukemia. So after Paul had crossed, it was 3 months, like August, September, October, November, no, it was 4 months. And then Chrissy suddenly is on the phone saying, I've got this leukemia, and they say I have to do a bone marrow transplant. And she went through the hardest days, I would say harder than Paul. And then because we had this weird upbringing connection, my father called me to come to the beach in Mobile and go on the boat and go fishing with him because of my daddy. We got to do Happy Father's Day connection today. My daddy was my guy, and Chrissy's daddy was her guy, and he had a big fishing boat. And so my dad took Chrissy and I out fishing, and we walked on Sand Island Beach, and I said, Chrissy, what is the hardest part? She was wearing one of those scarves. She'd lost all of her hair. And she said, the hardest part is knowing how much it's hurting my dad. And I knew just what she meant because my dad would have died if something like that was happening to me. And so her dad showed up at the harbor in his boat to pick her up. And we were waving to each other, love you, Chrissy, love you, Chrissy. And her dad was going, now you still living in Boulder, Colorado, Sue? And I said, yeah. And he goes, you know, I hear that's like the cocaine capital of the universe. That's the kind of character he was. I was the organic granola eating hippie in Boulder, Colorado. And I was like, yeah, you're right, Mr. Kegel, that's what I do, you know? Chrissy's waving and we're laughing. And she leaves on that boat, and I turned to my dad, and the words that came out of my mouth even surprised me. I said, Daddy, I'm never going to see her again. And she was in remission. And Dad said, no, Sue, she's going to be fine. She looks great. And so I go back to my life and I go to Mexico to teach fitness, as one does. And, and I get, no, I didn't get a phone call. I'm sleeping one night and all night long, Chrissy is with me in dreams, but it was more than that because she was making me laugh so hard that my stomach muscles were hurting from laughing all night long. And she was flying me around to see friends we'd grown up with. And I would even wake up in the night going, oh, I'm with Chrissy. And I'd go back to sleep and laugh with her some more. And in the morning, I woke up and I knew I had been with Chrissy all night. Her vibrational pattern, her laughter, my sore muscles from laughing. And I said, oh my God. And there were no cell phones. So I had to run to an operator, get a call in, wait for a call to come back. And finally a call came back and said it was her mother. And her mother said, Chrissy died in the night. No, don't be sad. What was Chrissy's message to me? That laughter is the voice of God. She came to pull me out of my human self, travel me around the world, laughing, laughing, laughing. So I share this with you because that second piece of grief right there is what then launched me to become a spiritual seeker who was relentless. I had suddenly lost two people in their early 30s for no reason to terrible diseases, and they had both come back and taught me things that were unbelievable to me at the time. And I was trying to figure out what it all meant. Now, I look back on that now and say, oh my God, what a gift they gave me. How much they must love me that they would come back to tell me how it worked, so that today I could be here with all of you. And if you have questions about it, I can talk from the deepest part of my heart and soul. It is not books I've read, it's experiences I've had. That the soul goes on, that laughter is the voice of God, and that we do have a plan, but we can't really understand it from the earth world. And more important than that, that God is love. So go on your spiritual seeking journey. Don't take it from me, but ask every hard question and find the answers that resonate in your own heart. And don't let anybody else talk you out of what feels right in your heart. And especially don't let anyone make you afraid of some kind of punishment or of hell or of a devil. Because every experience I've had out of body and hearing from my beloveds, they tell me there's no devil, but there are souls who, when they cross, don't want to look at the light, don't want to believe there's a God, and they keep their energy in the low earth or closer to earth realms, but they're not devils and they're not more powerful than any of you. Because the love always wins. It's more powerful than evil. The light is more powerful than darkness. That simple principle right there tells you everything you need to know about being afraid of a devil. Why not love everything? Because that transforms it into the light and into God. And where do the angels fit? Well, the angels know that we are coming here for a pretty hard journey. That the good part is in the heavenly realms, that we're so aware of God there. We're so aware of love. We're immersed in sacred wisdom and unconditional love there. But when we choose to come down into this little earth world in a tiny human body, it's a different story, because the mind starts going, well, who do you think you are to think you could do this or write that book or become a teacher of some kind? And your soul is going, I'm a divine being who came here on purpose, filled with love and light, to share my gifts with the world fearlessly, as everyone has come here to do. That changes everything. So today's stone we're supposed to be talking about is called self-doubt. Self-doubt only comes from the human mind. And, people talk about psychology. You can spend hundreds of years talking to a therapist about your self-doubt. And I promise you, it's going to be the hardest thing you could ever do to find your physical self perfect and lovable. So here's a shortcut, people. Love your beautiful soul. Your soul came here as a perfect being of light with an extraordinary mission to accomplish. You're doing the best you can, and everyone here is. So when that self-doubt comes in, we flip it by saying, I'm an imperfect human. So what? Everybody is. Oh, Rick, do you need something, honey? Okay, welcome. I'm an imperfect human, as all humans are, and I will remember my soul instead. And I will go, wow, what an amazing life story I've had. A soul review will show me getting up over and over again to try again. That's all that matters, people. We don't come here to be perfect. We don't come here to try to live a mistake-free life. We come to keep trying and trying again to remember our divine nature as beings of love and light. And when I was in the hospital a couple of years ago and kind of having my own out-of-body experiences, it was amazing because I was shown a little mini soul review. And I know you guys have had those too, when you've had medical things happen, where you kind of review your life from that higher perspective. And I came home from that and walked into my room or my office where I do my work, and I thought, God, Sue, you've just tried so hard all your life to teach the right things, to learn the right things, to help people to get it right. I can so love you for that. And yes, you've got a lot of other flaws, but I can really love your soul's determination to learn and grow. How many of you feel you can love that about yourself? Yeah, that's how we love ourselves. And when you do a soul review, some of you saw that movie of Waves and War on Netflix. That is the greatest depiction of a soul review I have ever seen. And that was in a documentary about Navy SEALs. They saw their life unfold. And they saw the backstory of the guy who shot them and the backstory of the person they shot. And guess what? They loved them. Navy SEALs, people, if Navy SEALs can get to that, we can. So, angels. So the angels are our greatest helpers here. And they know we're not perfect. They know we're going to make crazy choices, but they are the ones who are there to pick us up and go, come on, let's dust yourself off. I'm going to make you feel a little better today. I'm going to open your heart a little bit when you try to shut it down. I'm going to whisper something funny to you to get you to laugh or smile. And I'm going to just boost your energy so that you can continue living your human soul plan on earth and accomplish what you came to earth to do. So if you've ever had a best friend that loyal, you are lucky. And if not, turn to the angels, because they're always the ones who are going to go, let me help you. I'm here. Let me love you. And they are so readily available to each of you that in your deepest, darkest pain or fear or illness, they're the ones who can make you smile, lift you up, relieve your pain. But they can't interfere with our soul plan. That's the catch-22 here. So we may pray all we want to the angels, but if it's my exit point today on the way home, the angels aren't going to change that. But what they'll do is they'll lift me out of my body so gracefully before the horrible stuff happens that humans get so attached to when we see someone we love die. The spirit is not in that body. The angels have already lifted you. I got 2 angel stories to tell you, and then I'm going to shut up. We're going to keep talking about other things that I'm supposed to be talking about. But angels in the, I have to slow down because I got too many angel stories I want to tell. I'm going to tell Jacob Cooper's angel story because this one really comes back to the truth. He was 3 or 4 years old. He's written many books, and he's now a profound author, healer, helper, and a social worker. And when he was 3 or 4 years old, he had undiagnosed whooping cough. And his parents didn't know, they just thought he had a cold. And so he was at the playground and he was climbing up the ladder and he started having a coughing fit. And if you've ever seen anybody with whooping cough, it's so terrible, they truly can't catch a breath. So he fell off of the ladder and fell backwards and hit his head on the ground and went to passed out, really. So they called the ER, Jacob's poor parents, and they called the ambulance and they took him to the hospital, and he was really sick. He was in a coma for a while. And then when he got better and he was back home, he was really sad. And here's this beautiful 3-year-old little boy who's alive and well, and his parents are doting on him, going, "Honey, why are you so sad?" He said, "Because I want to go back to those angels that were with me. They were with me every minute from the moment I started climbing the slide." And he was like, "Where are they?" And he remembers that and tells that near-death experience now to remind all of us that those moments that look so horrible to us, watching them happen to somebody else, the angels have already lifted them out of that. And my own father, who's happy Father's Day, Dad, my person who's in heaven, the way he exited showed me that as well. So he was dying of lung cancer in the hospital. I knew he was going to die that day and I wanted to be with him. They sent me home, and maybe I already told you this. I sat down to meditate and he shows up clear as a bell in front of me, laughing, goofing around, acting young and healthy and happy, to where I'm going, "Dad, what are you doing here?" And then I went, "Oh my gosh." And I called the hospital. My brother says, "He's having a heart attack. We're doing CPR. It's terrible. It's chaos." And I said, "No, Jim, he's not there." So whatever trauma memories you're holding on to about a beloved crossing, a child especially, or a partner or a parent, they were not in that. They were already lifted out of it. So one of the big things that Paul has come back to teach me is that we get hung up on earth with thinking of the suffering of our beloveds. And he's come back so many times to say, they aren't in those moments. Why are you? So if you held someone in your arms when they were crossing and they had been suffering terribly, you're holding on to that memory and they are happy and free. So let the angels lift that trauma from your heart, because they can. That's one of the ways that angels can help us. Any questions? I have a microphone runner if you need it. Yes.
Is Earth the only school?
This is a good question. Let's put this on the microphone.
Is Earth the only school?
No,
Are we the only being?
no. In fact, I was telling some of you that I saw Disclosure Day. How many of you have seen that? Yeah. And there's a beautiful scene in it. It's such a beautiful movie. And it's not scary at all. So don't worry, don't not see it because you think it's scary. It's truly beautiful. This woman is contemplating, she's Catholic. She was gonna be a nun, you guys. And we're talking to Kate here. She's Catholic and she had been about to become a nun, and then she had sort of questioned her religion and stepped away from it. And when she saw the footage that her boyfriend showed her, show that there are advanced civilizations and that they've been visiting Earth for a long time, there is all that footage in the government files. But anyway, so this beautiful girl is now going, she calls up her head mother superior at the convent and she says, "Does God only love us?" And the nun who's answering the phone says, "Read your Genesis. He says, you are my chosen people," or something, "on earth." And he goes, the nun says, "Why do you think God would create this beautiful, love-filled universe only just for us?" And I felt like that was a beautiful answer to that question. Because of course there's other beings, of course there's other galaxies, there's other ways of incarnating. But I have heard that if you chose Earth to come to, you're a brave soul. Because it's not an advanced civilization, even though we like to think it is. We're still lost in war, lost in conflict, all kinds of stuff. Those are not signs of an advanced civilization. So, so ask yourself, if there are other civilizations here and there are other ways to evolve, I begin to see a bigger plan here. That souls are incarnating everywhere they're needed and everywhere they can help. And if you're here now, you chose this moment. Other questions? Yes. Yes.
I'll bring it back up.
No, yeah. When we talked about, that, we got together and we came to these agreements,
Right.
how does free will come?
Oh, so glad you asked that. So let's just pretend that I'm in heaven and I'm hanging out with Paul and Chrissy and Kate and Beryl and Eve and all the people I love, Amber. And we're all sitting around and we're saying, do you guys think we should go back there? And I'm going, I really said I would never go back there. And Amber goes, well, they need some help down there because they don't really believe in life after death, and everybody's laughing because we're in heaven, And I say, well, I'd only go if I knew it was going to serve all my people here that I love in my soul group.
Yeah.
And so Kate says, well, then I'll go down and have my journey, but I'll find you at a certain point in your life when I need to find you and you need to find me. Amber says the same thing. And all my beloveds say, Paul said to me, well, I've got this little thing in my soul I need to burn away, and I haven't been able to accomplish that when I've been on earth before. So I'm going to choose that physical burning up of illness. And Sue, would you walk by my side through it? Because it'll teach you compassion, love, and force you to go on your awakening journey. And I said, really? I gotta do. And Paul said, yeah, come on. Paul was very brave on earth, and I know he's a very brave, evolved soul. And Chrissy was there and said, okay, well, I'll do mine really quick after Paul's, so you can just get it all over with. And she was doing it for her own family of awakening and her other people as well. So we all agree, but it's not just for me, it's for our collective. And we're agreeing for the greater collective. We're agreeing, wow, when it's 2026 and the world is really on the cusp of either completely falling apart or rebuilding into a better world, that'll be the time that we really have to be here on earth and break it open with our new ideas. And so we all jumped in. Now, free will is Paul dies and I am angry at the world. I'm turning 30 and all I want to do is move to Mexico, teach fitness and drink beer. And I did that. And what I learned very quickly is that wherever you go, there you are. And there's no escaping your soul plan. There's no escaping what you've come to learn and do. You can take a little detour, but suddenly I'm going, I gotta get back to my life. There's things I want to write. I want to learn stuff. And you're just compelled then to sort of step back into your plan. I've seen it over and over with my clients. People will say, oh, I decided to go live in Europe and I was living in a caravan and I had no bills and I should have been completely happy. And I felt completely lacking purpose. That's because the soul plan calls you until you take your final breath. So we can run as far as we want to run. And there you are. We can change the scenery, which is fun, but there you are. So free will says, I can take as long as I want to take to learn what I've come to learn. But sooner or later, I'm going to find myself back in that darn classroom. And free will says, and I can choose to do it quickly and gracefully and easily, or I can fight and resist and be angry and lost as long as I want. And I've tried it both ways. And trust me, you want to go for quick and graceful and okay, what's next? Rather than I hate this and I'm going to resist this and I don't need to change, those famous human words. I don't need to change. Those are the last words we should ever say. Because when we come here, the main thing we agree is that we're going to grow and evolve. And if you leave early, if you have a soul exit plan like Paul or Jagger or anyone who leaves early, it's usually because you're a more advanced soul. Eve knows this. She worked with children and cancer in the cancer ward as a nurse. Were they the most evolved souls you ever saw, Eve? Yeah, totally. Do you have an angel story to share with us, Eve? Okay, she said yes, give her that mic.
Well, okay then.
Don't be shy, Eve.
Don't be my normal nature. I won't, tell them all, obviously, but, when I was 11, this is a very short one, the other one is more poignant, but when I was 11, I left, my grandfather and I were extraordinarily close, and I only had him for 8 years, because I was 3 when I met him. And I always kissed him, and he'd say, you know, see you next Sunday if the good Lord, whatever that is, and the creek don't rise. Anyway.
Speak into the microphone more so we can hear.
And he didn't say that this Sunday when I left him. And I repeated it because I thought, well, you're older, and, you know, I thought maybe his hearing was gone. And he didn't say anything. He just truly looked at me, and I knew that look. And I went home that night and the phone rang, but just as the phone was ringing and I could hear my mother screaming, Puppy was at the bottom of my bed. And I was all fine with it and content, and he spoke to me. And it was just great because obviously he was on his way over. He needed to stop and talk to me. And then my father came in and he said, I have something to tell you. And, you know, being the mouthy one that I am at times, I said, I know Poppy died. And he was so shocked. And then I proceeded as a child to say, well, he was here. And my dad said, you know what, honey, just go back to bed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your dad was saying, we'll get you some meds.
Fine in the morning, you get a grip. Anyway, so that was one, but I was diagnosed when I was 33, and by the time I was 34, I was dying. I had had 2 brain bleeds, shorted out the whole right side of me. But my brain worked well, just nothing else on the right side worked. And I had a true near-death experience where I went across and I was literally over it. But I had a string around my finger. And I knew I was connected to earth with that. And the angels were talking to me. And it was basically, I'm making this a very long story short. They were explaining that I had a choice, but that I still had things to do. And I was told by the medical profession I'd never go back to my career. I'd blah, blah, blah anyway. And I was told I was virtually going to die. And I didn't believe it. So anyway, I saw the other side. I heard the other side. It was incredibly peaceful that you can't find here, even in your best meditation. And it was almost like they were taking me on a tour. And again, I had this string around my finger, knowing I was connected. And being the smart ass I am, and my angels love me for it, and they're very supportive. I was going like this with it, and they very calmly said, "You let go. You're here with us." And it wasn't. It was not mean. It was just that's you make that choice. And I thought, oh, and so I wrapped it around my finger twice and slammed back into my body. And I had the crash cart at the bottom of my bed. And meanwhile, I'm 80 pounds. I looked yellow green. I had no hair. I looked like death warmed over. And my doc came in and he said, please let us call your family.
Wow. Thank you, Eve.
Anyway, I'm here, out of here, so.
Yay. We're so happy that you are. So did you, nobody else? Okay. Well, I want to say something about children crossing though, because I think this is important. Earl has a beautiful young son who crossed, Amber does. When young children cross, they're not given that choice. That's what I've heard from all the kids' spirits. Because how could a child ever make a choice to break their parents' heart? So instead, they're just brought directly into heaven by the angels and comforted right away, like Jacob was. And Jacob didn't even want to come back. So that's another example of how they're not given a choice. Because if they still have something they've agreed to be here for, they're going to come back no matter what happened to them. Whereas if it's the exit point, like Pearl's beautiful boy, then that exit point is going to happen no matter what. And we're not going to spend any more time because these stories are so heartfelt of Jagger and Verl's son and everyone. But I just want to tell you that if you have any doubt, go watch near-death experience videos, go talk to people like this, go talk to the women at Helping Parents Heal just next door. And Elizabeth, the woman that I introduced you to who was here, she had lost a baby for her baby had gone into the NICU and she had spent months with the baby in the NICU, and then that baby had crossed, but she had Morgan, her first child, who was a beautiful boy. I think he was like 4 at that time. And she tells the story of coming home from the NICU and being so happy to be with Morgan, and then raising Morgan, and then she had 2 other daughters. And then she's having this beautiful life as a mom. And Morgan goes up to Everest for a college trip, just to the base camp. And she gets a phone call from one way of reaching her saying Morgan is dying of altitude sickness. Morgan was a huge, like, football player, kind of healthy guy and a real leader in his school, and she could hardly believe this. And somehow they patched her through to her son. And she said, put it up to his ear because he couldn't speak. She said, let him hear my voice. And she was going, Morgan, we love you so much. Don't struggle. If you have to go, let go. Don't struggle. We'll be okay. Those are words that you say when you understand how this works. He took his last breath, and meanwhile, she's alone in this room, and she feels Morgan hug her, wrap his arms around her from behind her. And it was so real and strong that she turned around. She thought, oh, maybe her husband had walked in the room or something. And then she realized, no, that was Morgan. And she said from that moment on, she knew she was at a crossroads, a fork in the road. And the way Elizabeth put it was so great. She said, I knew I was either going to go to bed every night with a bottle of vodka, which Elizabeth would never have chosen, even though she played with that idea, or I was going to find out what happened and I was going to help other people understand this. And all these years later, there are 30,000 parents around the world who are part of Helping Parents Heal. So that's our free will. That is how our free will works. Amber, yes.
I just had a couple of things about free will because I have really kind of been drilling down on this. And there's a near-death experiencer named Jonathan Ashford, and he described our free will as accepting the guidance and heeding the roadblocks. And you have a choice to not do that the way that you described. And then I heard actually Mary Ellen, who's in this class, sent me a recording of Cheryl Page. Do you know who she is?
Yes.
And she did a talk about I think it was the physics of miracles. And she said, miracles are signs that you're on the right path, which I thought was so beautiful. And so, like, I try to heed the signs, and I really feel like if I do the legwork and something happens easily, that's how I know that I'm on the right path.
Yeah.
And if I keep butting my head against
Right.
the wall, that's when I say,
Right.
okay, gotta change course.
You know, oops, you're saying, gosh, is this not working now? Is it here? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what she's saying is so important, because when I talk about how there's a graceful way and then there's a hard way, it's our ego and our will that pushes us down the hard way path, because it says, I'm going to make this happen my way, no matter what. And that could be a career. That could be, there was something I was watching, about a girl who so much wanted to be a cheerleader because her mom had been a cheerleader, and very, the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, world famous. They're not really my people, but I love documentaries. And she kept trying out and doing all this stuff and was always rejected. But she just kept saying, I've got to do this. My mom did it. And there's this moment in our soul where if we're going to bang our head against the wrong path, we will do it until the body breaks. Do you know what I'm talking about? And you'll either get sick or get an injury, and something will suddenly go, you got to stop. But you'll still fight it. There's athletes who get beat up and broken, and they go and try to play again and again because they can't give it up. But when those things happen, it's always a sign that we simply have to say, what is new? What is next? Show me the way. And it's always better, but we have to take that leap of faith. And I think about that when I watch the Olympics, and you guys probably do too. Who was that famous skier who went back one more time and fell on the first run at the Winter Olympics? And she's too old. She's got a family. Is it Lindsey Vonn? I mean, she has a family who loves her, and she just couldn't give it up. So her very first run breaks the knee for good. And it's like, we don't have to do it that way, people. But if we choose to do it that way, then that's kind of the way it goes. Yes.
Question.
I'm coming.
Sorry.
I have a question about the relationship of body-mind connection and soul plan.
Very good. So, okay, I love this question, because there is a philosophy, and it's even in unity and other religions, that we're never supposed to be sick or ill or injured, that when we're in God's, embrace, that it's perfect health and forever. And when I hear these things, I always think, so what does this mean? We're never supposed to die? Like those beliefs that if you're doing it right, even the science of the mind religion, which is a great church, a great practice, they believe that every illness has a treatment, a prayer treatment. And, if people just pray enough, they'll never be sick. This is not what we come to do. We don't come here to live forever in the human body. We come to live as a divine being with a soul on a journey of awakening and discovery and love. Illness can be our greatest moment of awakening. How many of you have been stripped down by an illness and it woke you up to things you needed to change? Yeah. How many of you have been injured, and even though it was horrible at the time, it got you to make changes in your life that were better? I know a lot of people in their younger years who have those experiences, especially because I lived in Boulder, Colorado, the world of insane athletes who just think, oh, I'm going to run 100 miles before breakfast, and then I'm going to climb Mount Everest before dinner. And it's all about me being strong and healthy and perfect. That's the ego talking. So think about it this way. If your soul has a beautiful plan of growth for you and illness happens to show up, do we fight it and resist it? Or do we say, all right, angels, what does this mean? Show me the graceful way through it. And if I'm supposed to be sick with this, walk me through what the lesson is so I can learn it and move on. So, for example, many of the near-death experiences that people have happen for these redirection points. One of my favorite is a book called Angels in the OR. I'm happen to be blessed to be friends with the author, Tricia Barker. You can find her book anywhere. It's a bestseller still, I think. And she was a 21-year-old college student, very lost, drinking too much. I think she said she was an atheist at that point in her life, but she'd grown up in Texas in the Christian world. And then she rebelled and went to college and was acting out. And she was in a terrible car accident and broke her back. So she was in the hospital getting ready to go into surgery and couldn't even feel her legs. She was 21. And but her soul plan had a plan for her. So what happened was they brought her into surgery, and in that kind of spinal surgery, they put you on your stomach in the OR. And so they're operating on her back and they're pulling shards of bone out of her spine. And she hemorrhages and dies and leaves her body. And as she's above her body in the OR, she's really happy and she's like, so glad to be out of there. Oh, and she looks back and she sees around the surgeons and the nurse techs, angels wrapped around them, moving their hands. She said it was the most astounding vision, and it was out of her ballpark. She was an atheist. It wasn't something she would have expected. And she had other things happen, like she saw a pair of shoes sitting out on a ledge of the hospital window somewhere. She saw these random things so that later, when she was back in her body, she could go and validate all of this. But the biggest part was she talked to the surgeons and said, did you guys pick bone fragments out of my spine? And they were like, what? They don't like to hear these kinds of things. And she said, did I hemorrhage out? And they said, well, okay, you were bleeding, like they really don't want you to know the backstory. But she had witnessed it all. And then they found that pair of shoes on the ledge outside of somebody's hospital window. And she was like, that's it, it's real. And it changed her life. And she went back to school and became a teacher, elementary school teacher, helped so many kids, really became a very beautiful soul helping people. And now she teaches about her near-death experiences and angels in the OR. I love that vision. So one thing you can do is, you guys know, whenever I'm in the doctor's office, I'm like, come on in, angels, help me through this. But think about it, if you have to go through surgery, you just say, angels, come on, surround all those doctors, move their hands, and if I'm meant to go, then get me out of there as quick as you can. All right, any questions? Yes, yes. Oh, yeah, we had a good discussion last week. I've thought about it. So, yes, raise your hand again.
I actually have two questions.
Mhm.
Last week, and this might tie into what you were just saying, last week you said health issues are messages from the soul. Can you say more about that, or is that just kind of tying into like, it's a lesson, you're
Yeah.
gonna get the lessons out of it?
Yeah, so nothing is ever random here. So for example, if you're suddenly in a car accident, you want to think, oh, that was random, it's part of the soul plan and it's meant to wake us up to something. And if I suddenly get sick, there's a soul lesson in it, a gift for me. And I have to be in my soul's wisdom to look at it that way. Or I see my life and think I'm a victim to a random tragic world with events that happen that are just evil and I have no control over. So when you live your life with that, where do you think that takes you? Not to a happy place, not to a productive place, not to a loving place. But when you say, oh, this must be some lesson in this, some gift in this, and I'm gonna figure it out, then suddenly you're lifting into that higher frequency. That's all that we have to do is just say, I want to figure out what this means and what I can learn from it and where I can go now.
Perfect, thank you. My second question is, you've talked about soul family or soul groups. And I'm wondering if you could explain that a little bit more. Like, is that like our biological family as our soul family and we keep reincarnating with those same people? Or
That
is
sounds
our-
horrible, doesn't it?
Wow, I'm a little concerned about that.
Yeah, she's worried about that.
I don't wanna do it again.
I agree.
Or is it,
I know.
you know, our spiritual?
Yeah, so what I have learned about this from spirit, from angels, is that each of us has this circle of souls that we've incarnated with throughout time, that we've known and loved throughout time. If we've been in the angelic realm, then they are angels' souls with us. If we've incarnated in other galaxies, they've done that with us. Wherever we've been part of this. And they will usually be some of the people in your family of origin, and then very important friends, also people who hurt you in this life, people who broke your heart, disappointed you, fired you from a job. They are part of that circle because it's all about that agreed upon growth plan for everyone. And, you know, you can tell when you meet somebody from that circle, I think you can, because you lock eyes with them and you're sort of like, oh, who are you? I feel like I know you. Yeah. And that's why people fall in love a lot of time, you know, it's like, oh, I think I know you. And then you get into the relationship and it's really painful and you're thinking, was I wrong? No, you were right. This is the agreement we made. And it's hard and not pretty, you know, but those agreements aren't meant to give us happily ever after. They're meant to be our greatest soul awakenings. Thank you.
Yes, I just want a clarification on something. You were talking about, that the soul plan, you're up with a group of not angels, but souls, and that's where you make the decision what your plan's gonna be. So are you saying the soul plan, you agree with other souls? Or are
Yeah.
you saying you agree with God?
Oh, well, God is
So
part
that's-
of that.
Right,
Yeah.
'cause that's what,
So-
and you're saying that they come down and they could go back again? So it's reincarnation, then go back and become a soul again, be
Okay.
part of another soul plan?
Okay, let me stop because you got a million questions in there. Let me start with the first one. I think the first one was, do we just souls by ourselves make that plan? Oh, no, you have to have your plan approved by the guides who are part of the God source, you know, by all the higher beings. We don't come to earth with our own invention of, gee, I think I'll go down there and be a millionaire and drive a Ferrari. And I'll be gorgeous and everyone will love me. And the guide goes, you won't learn a thing if you do that. We're gonna change that up. No, you work with your guides, your spirit. We're not alone in this. We're all connected. I am part of you and you are part of me. We've known each other. You wouldn't be sitting in this classroom if you weren't somehow part of this soul group and the greater extensions of it. And of course, it's all guided by God, the loving God force that runs this universe. No choices are made without God being part of it. This is why the theory of evil doesn't work, because no matter how we behave, we are still part of God, part of that love. And that is a whole different way of looking at good and evil. But when we can begin to get that viewpoint, what it does for us is we say, well, I may not understand that person's behavior, but I'm going to find a way to have compassion, forgiveness, and love no matter what, because I'm not their judge. They'll have their own judgment, looking at their soul review and learning what they learn and going back to heaven and having all those awakenings. It's not my job to judge another human. And that takes such a burden off of us, Because we go around here thinking, well, that person did something wrong. Well, do a soul review and you'll find out that that person had their own good intentions from their backstory and they thought you were doing something bad. So it is so much more complex than our human minds want to believe that it is. But nothing is done without God. God is part of all of it. And we never reincarnate and incarnate as a soul. In other words, the soul is never not part of it. It's the body costume that changes. Yes.
So is there only one soul every time you come back? Is it a different soul?
You have the same soul you've
Same
always
soul.
had. And it's grown and evolved and gotten better and more loving. And that vibration of yours, your loved ones recognize it when you're in heaven and they recognize it when you're here. Yes, yes.
When I was 2 years old, I almost died. I had spinal meningitis and I was in the hospital. Why? I don't understand. I did make it, as you can see, but did I agree that I would almost die?
How old were you?
2 years old,
Yeah. Sometimes that is, you guys are twins.
right?
So there's something in there for you two about whatever that was meant to be. And sometimes it's a soul just trying to decide if they're gonna stay here. And then they leave the body and have a talk with the beings and the beings go, oh no, you gotta go back and finish that life.
I wish I could remember that.
I know, and that's the thing. Sometimes there are people who do certain kinds of hypnosis that can bring you back to
Oh.
that.
Okay.
But even my husband, Gene, he had a seizure when he was 28 and he was in a coma for like 5 days and the doctors had no idea why. And he came out of that coma, couldn't remember a thing about it, but packed his bags, left his home. His Italian mother had never wanted him to leave home. And packed his bags and drove to Arizona and changed his life and became a designer. And it happened in the coma, but he has no memory of it. And we were saying just yesterday, he needs to go get hypnotized by someone and really try to remember what was the conversation with God? What were you guys deciding? I think he didn't want to be here anymore. He had a really hard childhood, like many of us do, and he couldn't get away from his Italian family. I mean, I love Italian families, but his was very cloying, sort of. And that freedom, that experience gave him the freedom to make a different choice, a different life.
Just have a quick question. Can you
Yes.
speak the name of the two movies you mentioned?
Oh, yeah, the Netflix documentary about the Navy SEALs, which everyone should watch, it's free, is called Of Waves and War. How many of you have seen it now? Is it worth seeing?
Yes.
Yeah, it's profound.
Yeah.
What was the other movie? Was I talking about Disclosure Day? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's worth seeing because the primary message of that is that advanced civilizations value empathy more than anything else. And that the human world in our earth world is struggling with that. We can honestly say we're at a tipping point of, are we going to be empathy evolved souls, or are we going to be conflicted and warring and trying to kill each other for eternity? And the message of this is that the more highly advanced souls are trying to teach us, even by being here, about empathy. And boy, that's a message the world needs. Okay, I said we'd wrap it up in an hour because it's Father's Day. I want to end with a really quick story because you guys know Ken who works here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I love my Ken. Last year, when I gave a talk in the sanctuary, I had asked for angels stories from people to share on the stage. And Ken gave me my very favorite one. And if you know him, you know he's the most genuine, authentic, beautiful soul. His story is he was a partying young 20-something kid living in a small town in Missouri in the 70s. It was 1974. And he drove to Joplin, Missouri. There's a static deep. Yeah. There we go. Ooh, that's better. So, there was a static, he drove his little VW, remember those VW bugs in the seventies? To Joplin to go party with his friends. And then, are you trying to tell this story? And, so he stayed until 2 and he shouldn't have, and he knew that, and he was driving back. Maybe Ken needs to tell this story. Where is Ken? He was driving back at 2 in the morning, and of course, the car broke down. And here he is alone on the road, a small 2-lane road, the middle of Missouri, 2 a.m. And he's really upset, and he looks up, and there had always been this old boarded up old truck repair filling station kind of place that he had passed many times, and it was closed and the windows were boarded up. But on this night at 2 in the morning, he looks at it. There's my husband, Gene, just came in. He's given me the call, it's time to go. So happy Father's Day, Gene. So Ken looks and he goes, wow, there's a light on in that building. That's unusual. Maybe somebody there can help me, or maybe they have a phone. And so he goes over there, and there's a man working on a truck in this building, and the light is on. But the man's back is to Ken, so he can't really see who it is. So he says to the man, hey, my car broke down. Is there any way you have a dime? Because there's a payphone out here on the front of your garage, and I'd like to try to call my friends. The man just kind of grunted and digs in his pocket. And Ken says, well, here's a dollar bill. I'll give you, no, I can't remember how it works. He goes, I need a dime. And the man hands him a dollar bill. And Ken goes, well, let me give you change. And the man won't turn around, but he's like, no. And Ken goes out. He has his dime. I've told this backwards. But he goes out, he has his dime, he calls on the phone to his friends, and they come and get him. So the next day or two, he's driving by again, and he goes, I want to go in and thank that man, because he really, really helped me. And he goes up, and it's all boarded up, no sign of life, and there's no payphone. And he said, I'm trying to get it exactly as Ken tells it. He says, I realized upon reflection that this was my father who had died when I was a baby, and that he had shown up that night to be the angel in my life when I really needed help. Oh, Ken, thank you. Thank you all so very much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, that story every time.
What's your next one?